Welcome back everyone. Today we'll be beginning with session 2 of the week 5 of the course Retail Marketing Strategy. So as far as this week is concerned, we are precisely delving into the facets of a retail strategy. We are trying to understand what are the parameters or can be the tricks for framing a successful retail strategy. And if you remember, we had precisely touched upon the three perspectives or three key pillars when we talk about a retail strategy. One was about identifying the right target market, which means where the retailer would actually be driving its resources. The second one was what is going to be the strategy with respect to the format and retail mix. Now this can be related to a promotion strategy, merchandising, visual merchandising, where is going to be the location of the stores, and a few more facets. And the last one was about sustainable competitive advantage, where we precisely tried to understand what is it that the retailers can do better from their competitors to have a strong position or hold in the market, but it has to be something which cannot be easily copied, right? But even in this session also we'll be delving a lot more into this. So we'll be understanding what is segmentation and what can be the basis for segmentation and what are the key essentials for a target market segment, right? Apart from that, we'll also be getting more into the depth of elements of a retail strategy, which indeed are the three that we have just discussed or briefed upon. And finally, we'll be understanding how a retailer can actually achieve a sustainable competitive advantage. But in this module as well, we are back with our exciting elements, which are extra fodder for thought and learning something new. So in this module, I'll be introducing something called as Snowstorm experience with you, and we'll also be learning which is the brand which actually mastered this. Apart from that, we'll be learning the meaning of high speed retail as we'll move towards the end of this particular module. Now before start understanding what can be the basis of segmentation, we need to understand what exactly is a market segment. So if you want to understand this in a very simplistic way, you can say it is a group of customers with similar needs, right? Which means the consumers or the prospective consumers who have similar needs, you are clubbing them together and you are calling them as a segment. Let's say if you club all the diabetic people and you decide to come up with a restaurant for them where the food which is good for their health will only be available there, that can be considered as a segment. However, it can be considered as a niche segment to be precise, and we'll also be talking about this also as we move further. Apart from that, even when you talk about gender, males and females can also be one of the segments. Segment can also be on the basis of income level, high, medium and low. Even social class can be a way of segmenting markets, right? But for now, what you need to understand is a segment actually indicates a group of people that have similar needs, and these are precisely homogeneous internally, right? Only when they are homogeneous you are clubbing them together to make a segment, but they are heterogeneous externally, which means they have to be different from other segments. Otherwise, what is going to be the point of creating different segments, right? So the core is it has to be homogeneous internally but heterogeneous externally. Now, once you have understood market segment, which could be many, what you need to understand is a targeted segment. Now, a targeted segment is the one that a retailer decides to focus its resources on or channelize its resources towards. Now, understand this with an example. Let's say maybe we'll continue with the example of Fab India again, right? You might have a lot of segments, right? When you talk about gender, you have male, females, right? Now, Fab India is focusing on both. They are driving their resources towards both the segments with respect to having specific merchandise for them or figuring out what can be the preferences, products which can be kept in stores with respect to both the genders, right? Specifically with respect to ethnic wear. Now their targeted segment is both men and women. Apart from that, they are also focusing on kids or children. Now that also becomes their targeted segment, right? But you might also have some specific brands, let's say in kurta category, which are only focusing on women. So for them, their targeted segment is only going to be women, right? So this is one way of understanding a targeted segment, which means what a retailer thinks is going to be the segment they would like to drive their resources towards, or in other words, you can say from where they think they can make profits by making the best utilization of the resources that they have. So for now, I hope you are clear with the meaning of market segment as well as targeted segment. Now what we are going to understand is another key concepts which are precisely concerned with segmentation. So first is market segment, which we have already understood, right? which means you are clubbing the group of people who actually are homogeneous with respect to their needs. But many researchers have talked about offering a flexible solution or a flexible offering to people, which means it will have a naked solution and it will also have a discretionary options. Naked solution means something which is very basic and could be required by a larger segment, or let's say by more of, or by different segments. But when you talk about discretionary options, this is more like adding more of features or bringing in more of options, which can be basically determined on the basis of pick and choose by those customers themselves, right? See, you can understand this with respect to a car. In basic model, you get the basic things, but as and when you start moving towards advanced models, there are a lot more discretionary options which are available for customers at a price, right? So that's how they are segmenting on the basis of price levels, right? The people who want to buy a more of a competitive or economic option with a lesser price, they will prefer a basic option, but the people who want an advanced version of a car will be definitely going for it along with other discretionary options, which could be like an advanced stereo system in the car or other things, right? So the another important concept which you need to understand is niche marketing. Now niche marketing is more like a subset in the segment itself, right? So this is more like you are focusing on the very distinctive needs of a particular set of customers. If you remember, I gave you the example, if you talk about diabetic people and you decide to come up with a specific restaurant for them, which will be only offering, let's say, products which are very good for their health, or food items which would be good for their health, that can be considered as a niche marketing. Apart from that, another example is a brand called as Revolution, which basically manufactures for products with different body sizes, which could be XL or double XL. So they are also focusing on that particular segment. That could also be considered as a way of niche marketing. What precisely happens in niche is you are trying to cater to the very distinctive needs of people or a subset of people, but for this they will indeed be willing to pay a higher price. That's how you make it profitable. Otherwise you will never be able to achieve economies of scale when it comes to niche marketing, right? So another key concept which you need to understand with respect to segmentation is local marketing. Now in local marketing, what you are precisely trying to do is you are trying to tailor your products with respect to the specific needs of the people living in that particular area. Now one example for understanding this is, you see banks in almost all cities, but if you talk about Kerala, you might specifically find some of the branches we are only catering to NRIs, because a lot of people move to Middle Eastern countries here. So that's why there is a need for branches which are catering to the specific requirements of the NRIs there. So that can be considered as an example of local marketing. Now the last is individual marketing. Individual marketing is all about customization, which means you are trying to empower the customers to design products for themselves. It is more like one-to-one marketing where the consumers can actually design products for them. It is, in another words, can be said is more like creating segments of one, right? And this definitely thrives a lot more on technology, because Nike also came up with the campaign which was Nike by You, where it allowed or empowered people to design their own sneakers. You can definitely go and Google more about this. This again is one of the very fascinating examples when we talk about individual marketing, how Nike empowered their prospective consumers or existing consumers to design their own sneakers and give it a flavor which actually represented a personality of their own. This is how they actually designed the campaign. So please go and Google more about it. I am sure you will find it very exciting and fascinating. Now as we move further, we will be delving into the facets of segmentation with a little depth. We will be understanding how you can actually create segments for consumers. This is more like identifying set of consumers who actually share homogeneous needs. Now this can be on the basis of geography. Now geography simply means that you are dividing your market in different geographical units. Now that can be on the basis of nations, states, regions, cities, or as far as India is concerned, this can be precisely on the basis of rural and urban also, right? Next is you are dividing your customers or creating segments on the basis of demographics, age groups, gender, occupation, education level, income level, and even social class. Another way of segmentation could be psychographics, which is basically a combination of psychology and demographics, and this gets translated into activities, interest, opinions, and indeed lifestyle. Apart from that, you can also have segmentation on the basis of behavioral variables, which is more like a divisions created on the basis of occasions, benefits, user status, usage rate, readiness stage, and finally it can also be predictive, which is very much reliable as far as today's retailing dynamics are concerned, and this is on the basis of data emerging from actual behavior and purchase patterns. Now see, one way of looking at segmentation could be from the lens of products and services, right? Products and services, as in, let's say if you talk about gender, you might have certain products which are only used by men, and you might have certain products which are only used by women. And when you talk about occupation, you might have someone, let's say, who is sitting on a very high managerial position, he might prefer brands like Rado. Or if you talk about someone who is working on some another position, let's say on clerical basis, he could prefer different brands depending upon their income level as well. So there is always going to be a mish and mash when you talk about different demographics with respect to the products that they prefer. Now, as I was telling you, one lens is you start looking at the basis for segmentation from the context of products and services, which means what are the products and services that people in different segments would prefer, right? But you can also look at it from the lens of retail stores also, right? Because that also becomes a key basis when we get into the facets of retailing dynamics. So what we are going to do is we'll be looking at the basis for segmentation from the lens of retailers. So one such example for this could be, see, whenever you are talking about geographic segmentation, which is precisely looked at from the perspective of region, cities, rural and urban, maybe you can consider Pothys. This is one of the stores which only operates in southern India, right? And earlier they were precisely into the business of clothing, specifically saris, but now they have also got into grocery business. So if you search about this, you will only find their presence in basically the southern part of India. Now this precisely is one of the examples with respect to retailing when we look at it from the terms of geographics, right? Because they are only operating in the southern part. Another example could be in the food business, which is one of the popular chains for biryanis and is called as Thalapakatti Biryani. Even this you can find in southern part. You might not find any of their branches in the northern part of India or maybe in the western part as well. Now the another example which you can consider with respect to geographic is Sri Leathers, which is very popular specifically in West Bengal and precisely in Calcutta, where they have their headquarters, and they precisely sell products made from leathers. Now that could be bags, wallets, shoes and other footwear and a lot more products. Now this also is one of the examples which definitely has branches in other parts of India also, but precisely they have dominance in the eastern part. Now see, if you look at these examples, we are trying to look at retailers which have a very niche geographical presence. Now this can also be aligned with respect to products, right? If you visit a retail store, let's say in southern India, you might very different kind of product assortment which is being offered there. Likewise, if you go to west, the product assortment could be very different as compared to what you find in north. What I want you to understand is the bifurcation of the geographical lens with respect to the products and services which are offered by retailers, and also with respect to the presence of retailers from geographical context. Another example which you can have is of Zara. Now you will not find Zara having their stores in rural areas, right? Precisely because the target audience which they have is not residing in rural areas, even with respect to the income level, or let's say talking about the lifestyle. All these factors are definitely going to play a role. That's why you only see their presence in urban areas, right? So this again is one of the examples which you can understand to understand the geographical lens with respect to retailers. Now when you are specifically talking about gender, we will be considering the example of Aurelia and Fab India. Now when you talk about Aurelia, they only manufacture products for women. Whatever merchandise they have is only directed towards women. But if you talk about Fab India, their merchandise is available for men and women as well as children. So this again is one of the examples where we can look at the bifurcation of retailers or the segments which they are catering to from the lens of gender, which comes under the orbit of demographics, right? So the another example which we can consider could be from on the basis of income level, and that comparison can be done from the lens of the Rado watches, which is one of the most expensive brands, and Titan World, which actually has other brands like Sonata also, which is basically targeted at lower and middle income groups. Now if you look at both these brands, as far as demographics are concerned, their segments with respect to income level are very different. While Rado is catering to people who have a very high income level, Titan is catering to people who have either low income groups or middle income groups, but not specifically Titan per se. We are considering their brand Sonata in this particular segment, which caters to lower income and middle income groups. They also have brands which cater to the elite class, but for understanding, maybe you can consider both these examples if you want to understand the context of income level as far as the demographics from a retailer's perspectives are concerned, right. Now another example which you can consider in this case is of age and income level. Now if you talk about First Cry, their products are only targeted at infants or maybe let's say kids or children beyond a certain age. They are not focusing on teenagers, right, but their customer is definitely women who come and buy products for the kids and children. Along with this, if you consider the example of Nike, it is basically catering to people who have high income level because the price of the products is a little higher even with respect to apparels. But if you talk about Sparks, which is precisely an Indian brand, their targeted audience is precisely the people who have lower or middle income levels. So this comparison can also be kind of executed to understand demographics from the lens of retailers. See, this can also be looked at from the perspective of products and services, but here what we are doing is we are trying to understand this completely from the context of retailers, right. Considering some retail stores will be catering to a certain set of income level which could be high or elite, and some retail stores would be only keeping an assortment which is catering to lower and middle income groups. So I hope you got some perspectives about the context of demographics. Now when you are talking about age, you can also consider the example of a lot of gaming arenas or gaming stations that you find in malls, right. Precisely their targeted audience is either the youth or maybe kids precisely. Now this is again one such example you can consider to understand the context of demographics, right. Now when you get to the next segmentation, which could be on the basis of psychographics, which is all about activities, interest and opinions, one example which you can consider is definitely veganism. Now people who have adopted veganism definitely have different opinions and interest as far as veganism per se is concerned. Now this is one particular retailer who is thriving on that, right. Now this particular retail idea is indeed based on psychographics of people who align more or kind of want to adopt the lifestyles which are completely based on veganism. So vegan dukan is one of the retailers which is flourishing and can be clubbed under the essence of psychographic segmentation, which further gets translated into activities, interest and opinions. Now there is one more industry which we can consider as far as psychographics or activities, interest and opinions are concerned. Maybe we can look at the example of cosmetics industry. Now look at this snapshot has been precisely derived from PETA, and it says animals are not asked to experiment on, eat, wear, use for entertainment or abuse in any other way. Now they are specifically telling about the cosmetic companies who don't test on animals, right. The makeup is completely cruelty free and these brands don't test on animals, as you can see it written on the screen. Now this again can be considered as a key example with respect to psychographics, because you will many times see people searching of information if this particular cosmetic brand is testing on animals, and if it is doing, they might not prefer buying from them. Now this again gets aligned with their opinions that they are not comfortable buying those brands or cosmetic brands which actually test on animals. You will also be able to notice that many cosmetic brands in India would rather be thumping and kind of presenting it as their USP that they are not testing on animals, just to create a differentiation with respect to other brands. So as far as these two examples were concerned, I really hope you got some perspective about the psychographic segmentation as far as retailers are concerned. So but for this, I would again urge you to think of some more examples, and you can anyway get back to the forum anytime and share it with us, and we'll be happy to read about your views and your examples with respect to psychographic segmentation as far as retailers are concerned. Now we'll be moving forward with respect to understanding the behavioral segmentation. Now as far as retailing is concerned, and behavioral segmentation is precisely the context, occasions can definitely play a key role. Now for this, one retailer which we can consider is Archie's. You will see them selling a lot more with respect to the Valentine's week, or maybe let's say on festivals like Diwali, on special days like Mother's Day or Father's Days. Definitely the key lies in marketing, because their focus is always on making these days a lot more grander, and then pushing people to buy gifts or greeting cards or other gifting items for their loved ones, let's say for their father on Father's Day or for their mother on Mother's Day, and likewise on the Valentine's Day. Now this again is one of the examples of a key retailer when you want to understand the context of behavioral segmentation. Apart from this, behavioral segmentation can also be looked at from the perspective of benefits. I'll give you an example with respect to a product and service offering first, and then we'll move further. Let's say if you talk about toothpaste, you will only see people who have sensitivity issues buying Sensodyne, right? Because that is one of the benefits it offers, right? So when you want to understand this from the perspective of retailers or behavioral segmentation in context of benefits, let's say you might have a retail store who is offering the minimum cost or very competitive prices, like which happens with Walmart or Costco if we talk about, global markets. Now basically the benefit which they are offering is low prices, and you see a lot of people heading to these stores. Now another way of retailing with respect to behavioral segmentation could be exclusive merchandise also. You might have a retailer who is offering exclusive merchandise, and then you might see a lot of people just going there for buying products. Apart from that, behavioral segmentation is also aligned with user status, whether a particular individual is a user, non-user, ex-user or a potential user. Now you can also transpose this to retail stores. Let's say a retailer might prepare a list of people in a particular locality, a grocery retailer, the people who have not visited him once or have not bought him from once, or there could be people who have been buying regularly. Now this assumes importance because you will definitely require different kind of strategies for these segments. Another way of looking at this could be usage rate. You might have a set of customers who are visiting you quite often, or there are people who might not be visiting your retail store quite often or once in a while. For this also you will be required to implement different strategies, right? Many times you will see all these retailers, whether it is Amazon or Flipkart, they'll provide an early access to their members, Amazon Prime members or Flipkart Plus members. Now my question for you is, in which segment are you going to place them? Do you think this is going to be a case of behavioral segmentation or a readiness stage? Readiness stage means how much consumer is aware of your brand, in the sense like there could be stages that a consumer is aware of your brand but he is not buying. Now he has an interest and a desire to buy your products. Now that is again one of the readiness stage. Apart from that, there could also be a stage where he is regularly buying your products and is emerging as an advocate, right? So these all stages can also be understood from the perspective of retail stores also. But as far as this is concerned, I want you to kind of share your views in the forum and tell us what do you think prime early access sale, if it can be categorized under the behavioral segmentation or readiness stage. I hope you got the context, and we'll be happy to read about your views in the forum section itself. So as far as this module is concerned, I really hope that you enjoyed learning about the facets of retail strategy. But as we move to the next session, we'll be definitely learning what are the key essentials of a target market segment. Along with that, we'll also be learning how retailers can actually achieve sustainable competitive advantage. Apart from that, we'll also be touching upon our two key exciting elements, extra fodder for thought and learning something new. So thanking you for now and looking forward to meeting you in the next session.